Hey guys, Luke on Sean's channel. Today I'm really excited to showcase my new and improved Crystal Beast deck. I recently took this to a locals event and was able to bring it into the top 16. This deck has been way more improved than it was when I profiled it last month. There's definitely a lot more things to show about this deck. I'll explain my reasoning behind each card and why it's good in this format. So yeah, without further ado, this is Crystal Beast. One copy of Rainbow Dragon. What I liked about my old build was the fact that I was actually able to summon Rainbow Dragon, which was really cool. It can be a real anime moment, but unfortunately, just the way this deck is built, it's not possible to summon Rainbow Dragon at all now. You kind of just use this as fodder for your Awakened Crystal Ultimates. That's just the way it is, because you need an Ultimate Crystal monster in your hand to reveal in order to activate that card. Therefore, Rainbow Dragon is your only target in hand to reveal in order to get the full effect of Awakened Crystal Ultimates. Rainbow Dragon is also very easy to search because part of the effect of Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, when it's in the spell and trap card zone, you can banish it to special summon a Crystal Beast monster and add Rainbow Dragon to your hand, which of course is very, very good. It gives us the freedom to run it at 1 because it can be very much a brick. Therefore, 1 is the most optimal choice to run it at. We run 3 copies of Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus. Sapphire Pegasus definitely worth running at 3. I wouldn't run any smaller than that. Sapphire Pegasus is a level 4 wind monster, which is really good to know because level 4s are great for our XYZ plays, and having it a wind is really good for some of our link plays as well. When Sapphire Pegasus is summoned, i.e. being normal or special summoned, you can place 1 Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck or graveyard face up in your spell and trap card zones. And also, if Sapphire Pegasus is destroyed while it's face up on the field, it can actually crystallize itself and go into the spell and trap card zones. Definitely really important to run that tree. The fact that it's on summon, he's able to crystallize a monster is really good for getting our Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon or spell and trap card zone to get their effect. But also because if we have Rainbow Bridge to Heart up and Sapphire Pegasus able to crystallize a monster, Rainbow Bridge to Heart is able to bounce itself and another one of our opponent's cards. So I definitely can't praise Sapphire Pegasus enough. Definitely run it at 3. 3 copies of Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, or Zenith as he's known in the OCG, is really good. We got him in the structure deck, and we also got him in Ghost from the Past too, so it's very easy to get your hands on him. What makes this card stand out is that it's actually a high level Crystal Beast monster, but he's easy enough to bring out. You already know he has the same sort of effect that all other Crystal Beast monsters do when it's face up on the field, and if it's destroyed, it gets to crystallize itself as a face up continuous spell on the field. But uniquely enough about this is the fact that when it's a face up continuous spell on the field, it can actually banish itself in order to special summon 1 level 4 or lower Crystal Beast monster from your deck when negate its effects, and then if you do that, you can add 1 ultimate crystal monster from your deck to your hand, that being a Rainbow Dragon. So it's really good for consistency in getting Rainbow Dragon in your hands to make your Waking of Crystal Ultimates live. Not only that, you can also special summon Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon onto the field. If there's an attack declared involving one of your Crystal Beast monsters, you can actually special summon this card from your hand. So he's very easy to bring out and also very powerful for that other effect as well. I definitely recommend running it at 3 copies in this build. We don't run every Crystal Beast monster in this build anymore. This is actually kind of going more down the road of a Conclave sort of control build. But don't worry, I'm still adamant on making this deck as pure as possible. For example, I don't run Fenrir. So it's definitely good to maximize your copies of Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. 1 copy of Crystal Beast Ruby Carbuncle. Ruby Carbuncle is very good. Mostly for the effect that when this card is special summoned, you can special summon as many of your Crystal Beast monsters as possible from your spell and trap card zones. Unfortunately, that's only on special summons. You need to special summon this using the effects of Awakening of Crystal Ultimates or Golden Rule in order to get the full effect of Ruby Carbuncle. I know some people like to run her at 2 just in case there comes some problems where Ruby Carbuncle is accidentally banished or something like that. But I think running at 1 is fine enough for the build. I want to make this deck as consistent as possible without making it like overflowing with cards, so this is a very strict 40 card build, so running a Ruby Carbuncle at 1 is definitely the way I'd recommend playing it. Final Crystal Beast of the build is Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle. The only reasons that he's here really is just because I wanted to have a few more Crystal Beast monsters, so I'm not completely running out of fuel after I go through my first 6 monsters altogether. Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle made the cut over the other Crystal Beast monsters, mainly for the fact that not only is it a level 4 for our XYZ plays, but also it's a win for our Link plays as well. There are stronger Crystal Beast monsters, for example, Topaz Tiger and even Amber Mammoth. They're definitely better monsters than Cobalt Eagle is, especially because Cobalt Eagle has a very bad, irrelevant effect. However, solely for the purpose of it being a win and a level 4, that's why I've made the cut in this build. So I definitely don't recommend running any more than 1 copy of Cobalt Eagle. We run 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. Dimension Shifter is actually crazy in this format. I was facing a lot of meta decks when I brought this to the event, so Fire King and Snake Eyes were prevalent of course, and Dimension Shifter is just really good card for shutting them down altogether. Dimension Shifter, for those of you who don't know, has the effect that if you have no cards in your graveyard, you can quick effect, send this card from your hand to the graveyard until the end of the next turn. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. This is really good because it completely shuts down Snake Eyes and Fire King a lot, and it's able to buy you time and really control the game state. And the fact that Crystal Beasts don't really rely heavily on their graveyard as well means it's absolutely perfect that you're able to run this into the build. So I definitely recommend maximizing it in the main deck. Depending on the matchup, you might be inclined to side deck this out if your opponent is playing more of a rogue that doesn't solely rely on the graveyard either. But either way, I definitely recommend having it in this build in some form or the other. Rounding off the monsters, 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Honestly, I was kind of in between. I was very torn cutting Ash Blossom altogether just because we're heading into a fire format, and it's so easy for Fire Kings to get a bunch of advantage on you having Ash in the graveyard. They can use the Fire Charmer to steal it and go straight into their Princess, which can be really devastating. However, the reason why Ash Blossom stays in this main deck is just because it's a very universal hand trap, and it's good for against anything. When you time it right, you're really able to cripple Branded and a lot of other rogue decks, so I definitely think it's still worth running in the main. Every time I went game 2 with Fire Kings, I did tend to side this out just because I was afraid of giving them an extra material for Fire Charmer to steal. But then again, going 5 rounds and only 2 of those rounds was I against Fire Kings, I did find Ash Blossom to become very handy. Especially because one of those rounds I did come up against Branded, and like the meme goes, Ash Blossom Branded Fusion. Going into the spells now, we have a powerful one to start us off. This is Rainbow Bridge of the Heart. This is a crazy bit of support that we got in the structure deck. I really elevated Crystal Beast up to the next level that I'm really happy with. So for those of you who don't know, Rainbow Bridge of the Heart is a continuous spell and has multiple effects that really give it a good advantage. So during your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Crystal Beast monster in addition to your regular normal summon, but also you can use each of the following effects per turn. So during the main phase, you can destroy 1 Crystal Beast card that either you control or in your hand, and if you do, add 1 crystal spell or trap from your deck to the hand, which of course is very good. It's really great for consistency, but also if you have a Crystal Beast monster that's already face up on the field and you use Rainbow Bridge of Heart to crystallize it in order to search for a spell, that can actually trigger Rainbow Bridge of Heart's secondary effect, where if a Crystal Beast card is placed in your spell and trap card zone, even during the damage step, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, return both that card and this card to the hand. Which of course is very good because Rainbow Bridge of Heart on activation is not its activation isn't a once per turn, so as soon as Rainbow Bridge of Heart bounces back to your hand, you can actually activate it again, which is really good if you didn't take advantage of the extra normal summon of a Crystal Beast monster before it went back to hand. So I cannot stress enough, maximize yourself on this. You want to see it in your hand as often as possible, but not only is this good because it's great for consistency, but also it's actually very consistent in the sense that you're able to see this as well because you can actually search this off of Awakening of Crystal Ultimates. So 3 copies of Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, definitely essential for this build. I run 1 copy of Crystal Bond. This kind of breaks my heart a little bit because Crystal Bond was definitely my favorite searcher in any deck ever. Crystal Bond is really good because it can add 1 Crystal Beast monster from your deck to your hand, and then you can place 1 Crystal Beast monster with a different name from your deck face up into your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. Of course, you don't need me to explain why a +2 searcher is just absolutely insane. This is pretty much a 1 card combo into your rank 4, which most likely is going to be your Bagooska, which in and of itself is a really good floodgate for the build. The reason why I cut down Crystal Bond to 1 copy, although I run it at like 2 or 3 in my other build and only 1 copy in this build, is just because I run so few Crystal Beasts themselves that if I don't have 2 Crystal Beast monsters with 2 different names in the deck when I activate Crystal Bond, this Crystal Bond is actually a dead card. You specifically need 2 different Crystal Beast monsters with different names in order for this to actually activate and resolve. But not only that, in the later game it can be a bit frustrating if you have 4 of your spell and trap card zones filled up. You can't activate Crystal Bond because you need 2 spell and trap card zones open when you activate this. Of course, 1 to resolve your bond and 1 for another Crystal Beast monster to be placed there as well. So Crystal Bond only running at 1, and I wouldn't be too worried running at 1 just because there's so many ways to search it. Ways to search it include Rainbow Bridge. Rainbow Bridge is one hell of a card. It's really good when old cards can just stay relevant in today's metagame. Rainbow Bridge is great. Simply add 1 crystal spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Simple as that. Not even once per turn. You can activate all of them if you have them all in your hand in 1 turn. So 3 copies of it, maximize as much as you can. Definitely great for consistency. Moving on to the star player that I've already mentioned probably about 3 times by now is Awakening of the Crystal Ultimates. Just explain it one more time. You have to reveal 1 ultimate crystal monster in your hand, i.e. your Rainbow Dragon, and then you activate one of these effects. First effect being you can take 1 Rainbow Bridge card or 1 Rainbow Refraction from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard, which not only is very good for adding Rainbow Bridge of the Heart to your hand in order to activate and get a bunch of effects off that, but also the fact that you can actually use this to send Rainbow Bridge of Salvation to the graveyard. Which Rainbow Bridge of Salvation is really good because you can actually banish Rainbow Bridge of Salvation from your graveyard in order to search a Crystal Beast monster and any field spell at all, which is really important because there's a lot of great field spells that work as really oppressive floodgates. One we main deck in this build, and also we side deck one as well. So that's why that effect is so good. But also the secondary effect of Awakening of Crystal Ultimates is really good because you can special summon 1 Crystal Beast monster card from your hand, deck, graveyard, or your spell and trap card zone. This can be really good because unlike Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, it doesn't negate the effects of that Crystal Beast monster. So you can activate this, bring out your Ruby Carbuncle, and Ruby Carbuncle can pretty much soul charge all of your Crystal Beast monsters from the spell and trap card zones onto the field, which can be really crazy for link plays, some XYZ plays, or even just going for an OTK. So definitely maximize Awakening of Crystal Ultimates. It's also really good because we can search this off of Rainbow Bridge. 1 copy of Golden Rule. Golden Rule is pretty cool. I kind of ran it at 2 during my last build, but I'm not really sure how good that is now. Honestly, if you're playing a build like my other one where you're running all the Crystal Beast monster, this is a crazy card. However, just because we're playing more of a Conclave control build where we don't run too many Crystal Beast monsters, you really only need 1 copy of Golden Rule, and sometimes it's even sided out. So Golden Rule is always treated as a crystal card, so you have no problem searching it off of Rainbow Bridge. But what Golden Rule does is that it's a equip spell. You can place 2 Crystal Beast monsters from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone as continuous spells, then special summon 1 Crystal Beast monster from your hand or graveyard with a different name from those cards. And if you do, equip it with this card. Of course, this is really good in the regular Crystal Beast build where you're running all the monsters, but considering we run so few, it can be quite infuriating that we can't have the equipped monsters have the same name as the monster we're equipping Golden Rule to. So I think 1 copy is more than enough. It can be really good if you're slightly bricked up having Cobalt Eagle in your hand and you really need a Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon face up in spell and trap card zone from your deck. It can be really good for that. But this deck is quite consistent, so you don't really run to that an awful lot. So 1 copy of Golden Rule, more than enough. If you want to change this out for another Floodgate type field spell or something, that's absolutely fine. I find 1 copy of Golden Rule to be more than enough though. Speaking of oppressive field spells, 1 copy of Necrovalley. Necrovalley is great. We really do not care about the graveyard. Crystal Beasts don't really rely on the graveyard heavily at all. There are some cards that are able to special summon things from the graveyard and are able to banish itself from the graveyard in order to get their effects. But that's not the sole purpose of this deck, so Necrovalley is really good at shutting down a bunch of decks that heavily rely on that. Bit of a spoiler for the side deck, but in the side deck I run Dimensional Fissure, and with main deck Necrovalley there was at one stage where we're kind of getting into a game with Snake Eyes, and my opponent just really couldn't get over the Necrovalley and Dimensional Fissure at the same time. It's just really oppressive against the deck. So that was how I was able to steal a win from a Snake Eyes player with Crystal Beast, which I was very proud of. Necrovalley is just really good. It's the only field spell I bother main decking, so I recommend you guys do that too. Don't get me wrong, the deck is consistent enough anyways, but it can always have a bit more consistency. So 3 copies of Prosperity. We don't rely too heavily on the extra deck. I definitely recommend Prosperity over Extravagance, just because we get to choose what extra deck monsters we don't really need and are able to banish in order to dig deeper into our deck. So I definitely think it's worth running at 3 in the build. This is definitely a control deck, but in case we are forced to go second, having a board breaker in the main is definitely a good idea to have. And Forbidden Droplet is just really good. I definitely recommend it. Forbidden Droplet, send any number of other cards from your hand and or field to the graveyard and choose that many effect monster your opponent controls, and to end this turn your attack is halved. also their effects are negated. What's really good about this is that we actually have a bunch of Crystal Beast monsters face up in the spell and trap card zone, so we're not really shy of cards to send to the graveyard off of Droplet. But what really makes this good as well is that Droplet says that in response to this card's activation, your opponent can activate cards or the effects of cards with the same original type as a card sent to the graveyard. Same original type as in monster, spell, or trap. So it's really good that we're able to send monster cards and spell cards in order to kind of break our opponent's board. But not only that, if we actually brick with Rainbow Bridge of Salvation in their hand, we're actually able to use Droplet and send it from our hand to the graveyard in order to kind of get it into the graveyard and get its effect going from there. So I definitely recommend running a 3 in the build. It could be sided out depending on what your opponent is playing, but I definitely recommend Droplet. 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. This deck really likes to go first, and when it gets interrupted, things can get a bit heavy. So having a way to kind of play through that interruption is really good with Talent. Talent, for those of you who don't know, is when your opponent has activated a monster effect during your main phase this turn, you can activate one of these effects. Either draw 2 cards, take control of one monster your opponent controls in the end phase, or probably the most powerful is look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it to shuffle into the deck. That's why I think Triple Tactics Talent is really crazy when you're going first with this build. It can be sided out depending on what position you're in going games 2 and 3, but definitely 2 in the main I find to be really good and consistent. Now, as I mentioned previously, Rainbow Bridge Salvation, we run this deck, only run it at 1. The first effect, completely irrelevant, we'll never use it, but the second effect is really good. Second effect being you can banish this card from your graveyard and add 1 Crystal Beast monster and 1 field spell from your deck to your hand. Really great for searching any Crystal Beast monster and that Necrovalley as well. So definitely run Rainbow Bridge Salvation at 1 in the main. I run 1 copy of Crystal Miracle. Crystal Miracle is really good. I was debating cutting it or not, but I actually just really enjoy using this card, especially because this is a going first build. Crystal Miracle is great because it's an Omni Negate. When a spell, trap card, or a monster effect is activated, you can destroy 1 Crystal Beast card you control, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy the card. Not only that, if a Crystal Beast card is placed in your spell and trap card zone while this card is in your graveyard, even during the damage step, you can banish this card and place 1 Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell as well. This can be searched off of a Rainbow Bridge as well, so I definitely recommend running it at 1. If you want to swap it out with something else, that's absolutely fine. Rounding us off, of course, is the final place of hand traps being Infinite Impermanence. Imperm, of course, is just an absolutely great card. It's great going first or second. Simply target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution, for the rest of this turn, all other spell trap cards in this column are negated. But also, if you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand, which of course is very good. That rounds off the main deck. We're going to go into the extra deck now. I'm actually going to start things off with the links. We want 1 copy of Wind the Wind Charmer and 1 copy of Lina the Light Charmer. So of course, Wind is great for our Cobalt Eagle and Sapphire Pegasus, and Lina is great for Ruby Carbuncle and our Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. To go into these monsters, you need 2 monsters, including a monster of the same attribute as the link to go into them. They will pretty much have the same effect, but their effect applies on either Wind or Light. For example, so Wind, you need 1 Wind monster to go into him, and also when you special summon out on the field, you can actually target 1 Wind monster your opponent has in their graveyard and special summon it to your field, which is really good because you're able to use that as a link fodder in order to go into your link trees, such as your Unicorn or even some of your other bigger link monsters. But not only that, if this link summoned card destroy a battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can actually add 1 Wind monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, which is great because both Sapphire, Pegasus, and Cobalt Eagle have 1500 or less defense. Same with Lina, pretty much the exact same effect as Wind, but uses light monsters instead. Both Ruby Carbuncle and Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon have less than 1500 defense, which is really good in case our link plays get interrupted. So 1 copy of each, definitely essential for this build. I run 1 copy of Phoenix and 1 copy of Unicorn. Didn't come up that much. Honestly, sometimes I banish one of these off of Prosperity because they're kind of pretty irrelevant. Unicorn came in very handy though at one stage, just because I was easily able to link climb with it because I had Win on the field, and since my opponent used Droll, I was able to steal or Droll and use Droll and Win to go into Unicorn in order to shuffle back one of your cards. So Unicorn was really good for that. But also Phoenix came in pretty handy, although I ended up losing the match. Phoenix is really good because Runic decks are still a thing, and being able to destroy a semi-limited Runic Fountain defeats half the problem of that deck. So I definitely recommend running 1 Nightmare Phoenix and 1 Nightmare Unicorn. I think they're both very, very good. You're easily able to go into them, so there's no real downside of playing them. One copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker is a really, really good card. It just takes 2+ effect monsters in order to go into him. Most of the time you're using Unicorn and one other monster to go into him, just because if you use Unicorn to go into him, Access Code Talker has an effect that if he is link summoned, you can target one link monster that was used as link material for its summon. This card gains attack equal to that monster's link rating times 1000. So if you use Unicorn and bring out Access Code Talker using it, you're able to use Access Code Talker, target that Unicorn, and bring up to 5300. I will say I was playing a match against a branded player, and I did this play, use Unicorn to go into Access Code Talker, and then when I went into battle phase to go in for the win, my opponent told me that since I didn't specify that I activated Access Code Talker's effect to bring him up to 53, he was technically still at 23. It was fine, I still won the match. It was still kind of a petty thing to argue about anyways. It was just a local event after all. But still, just be sure to specify to activate that effect immediately when you bring out Access Code Talker. But that's not the only reason why Access Code Talker is really, really good. It also has the effect that you can banish one link monster from your field or graveyard and destroy one card your opponent controls, which is really, really good for doing some cleanup duty when you're going for that Access Code Talker final hit. I definitely recommend running it. Just be sure when you bring him out that you activate the effect to get him up to 5300, because you never know what kind of opponent you're going to be going up against. Going into the AA-ZEUS now, I think Bagooska was probably the star of the deck really. Bagooska is really consistent to bring out. It's just a simple rank 4. And Bagooska is a really good floodgate. When he's in defense position, it changes all other face-up monsters on the field to defense position, and also negate the activate effects of monsters that are in defense position when the effect is activated. So he's really, really consistent as a floodgate if you're going first. His attack position effect is kind of irrelevant, so there's no point really going into it. But I will say that don't forget, once per turn during your standby phase, you have to detach one material from this card, which is no problem. We tend to just have Bagooska up for about 1 or 2 turns. We kind of get rid of it fairly quickly anyways, but I still recommend running a 1 copy. I also recommend running 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller actually came in clutch against that branded player just because I genuinely forgot how many effects activating graveyard with branded. So having Abyss Dweller on the field in order to negate all those effects was really, really good. One play I did that I'm really happy I went around was getting Abyss Dweller out and activating its effects before I got rid of the Mirror Jade, so monsters were still protected because Mirror Jade couldn't activate its effects in the graveyard after Abyss Dweller used the effect to detach one material from the card, and then your opponent can activate any card effects in the graveyard this turn, which is actually really, really impressive depending on what the matchup is. I still think that Abyss Dweller might be pretty good against Snake Eyes and some Fire King variants as well, so definitely run Abyss Dweller at 1. I also run 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer. I just think Redoer is a really, really cool card. It's an easy rank 4 to make, and it can be really good at building up materials when we're going for Zeus. So 1 copy of Redoer. I also run 1 copy of number 60 Dugaris. Dugaris has some cool funny effects that might come in handy, but honestly most time I banish this off Prosperity. It's quite situational what Dugaris can get you out of. But I still run it at 1 copy. And I also run 1 copy of number 101 Sharkhorn Arc. Honestly, Sharkhorn didn't come up. My reasoning behind playing him was if there's a monster on the field that can't be destroyed, Silent Horn is really, really good at sucking up that monster as material rather than destruction. But again, didn't really come up a whole lot. Most of the time it was just getting banished off my Prosperity. That does it for the rank 4s. You also run a little number 97 package. So number 97, number 100, and I also had number 62. Honestly, the reason why I had number 62 was because I didn't have 2 copies of Hope Harbinger. If you have 2 copies of Hope Harbinger, definitely run it instead of this. But Hope Harbinger came in very clutch just because it's very easy to bring out with 2 level 8s, that being our 2 Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragons. A spell negate is very, very powerful no matter what the matchup is. And having a number 97 engine is really, really good in case we're in a situation where we need to OTK as quickly as possible. So definitely recommend running those cards. And finally, rounding off the deck, we have Divine Arsenal Zeus. You already know what Zeus does. He's really good at wiping the board. He can easily be brought out by overlaying him on an AA-ZEUS monster that attacked this turn. There was one match I was up against Vanadium and my opponent just had a lot of back row, but because I was oppressing him with Bagooska, after 1 turn I still had Bagooska with 1 material, switched him to attack and attacked in, and then I was able to overlay Bagooska for Zeus, which of course is really good. I definitely recommend running it. Round things off in the side deck now, 3 copies of Gamma Seal. I always recommend running a Kaiju in the side just because you never know. Gamma Seal is definitely the best Kaiju just because it's the weakest one. We can easily get over him with a bunch of our monsters, so there's no real fear of it having a big attack that we can't really out. So I definitely recommend running Gamma Seal at 3 copies in the build. I run 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is pretty good. I recommend it because I was really scared Horus was going to be a big problem for me, but I didn't actually encounter it at all. But I find Ghost Ogre to be a really good hand trap. The reason why I ran Ghost Ogre, I was torn between running Ghost Ogre or Ghost Spell, but considering that I already main deck Necrovalley and have a Dim Fisher in the side, I didn't think Ghost Spell will be too big of an issue. So 3 copies of Ghost Ogre in the side as well. As I just mentioned, 3 copies of Dimension Fisher. Absolutely insane card. We can really play this to our advantage, and it completely shut down a few decks that I was playing against. As I mentioned, the Snake Eyes player really didn't have too much response when I had Dim Fisher up and also Necrovalley. It was really good at buying me time in order to play my cards right to go for the win, so I definitely recommend running it in the side. 1 copy of Secret Village of Spellcasters. The spellcaster we bring out in order for us to lock our opponent out of activating spell cards is of course our Charmers, that being Win and Lina. So be especially careful that you don't just blindly activate Secret Village of Spellcasters. You need to control a spellcaster yourself in order to stop your opponent from activating spell cards. If Secret Village of Spellcaster is up and you don't control a spellcaster, you yourself cannot activate spell cards, which will be absolutely crippling to ourselves. So just be very careful of that. That is the 1 extra field spell I run on the side, just because it's not good against every matchup. It can sometimes be a brick as well, whereas Necrovalley is not a brick at all. Secret Village can kind of screw us over more times than not. So that's it at 1 copy in the side deck. And I also run 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. My reasoning behind running Cosmic Cyclone was because a lot of Snake Eyes card, if you're using Diabellstar, its effect actually sets the Sinful Spoils card directly from deck. Since the card is set first, there's a small window where you can Cosmic Cyclone that set card, which I think is really good at interrupting their plays. Not only that, I also came into contact with Runic during this event, so Cosmic Cyclone came in very handy for that. Obviously not handy enough, I still lost that match, but still, it was good to have a Cosmic Cyclone to prolong the game a little bit longer. Then rounding things off, we have 3 copies of Evenly Matched, solely for the purpose if we're forced to go second. This deck isn't really good at going second, but if we're siding in Evenly Matched, it's really good. Evenly Matched actually came in really handy twice during the event, so I can't recommend it enough. It definitely got me out of a few tricky situations. So 3 copies rounds off our side deck. So that about does it for the deck. Please let me know what you guys think. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Overall, I went 3-2 with this deck, which I'm really proud of, especially when you take into consideration how relatively cheap this deck in comparison to some of the other meta decks out there. So I definitely recommend if you're on a budget and still want to compete and win some games that you'd give this build a go. But please let me know what you guys think. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel because we have plenty more content like this on the way. If you want to play Crystal Beast a little bit differently, having it more with strong anime sort of tone with it, maybe check out the other Crystal Beast deck profile, and be sure to check out all the other videos on the channel. Thanks very much, goodbye.